Hey guys, welcome to another product showcase video. Today's video comes to us from InWin, and it is their Dragon Rider full-size ATX case. Okay, as always with the InWin cases, beautiful artwork on it, on the sides of the case, as well as a picture of the computer itself. Let's spin this around here. On this side we have different features of it: cable routing space, 12 centimeter LED cooling fans, quick CPU cooler installation, cutout hole, compatible up to 240 millimeter radiator, equipped with ultra-large 22 centimeter side fan, designed to hold up to 11 units of 12 centimeter fans on the side. We'll get a look at that in a minute. Sports USB 3. Some different pictures of the accessories of the unit itself, as well as some of the verifications for USB 2.0, 3.0, SATA 2, that sort of thing. Okay, on the other side of the box we have a picture of the right hand side of the case itself, showing the cutout where the ventilation will be for the back side of the CPU cooler. They put a cutout here and a fan to move some air over the back side of your CPU cooler. And now on this side we have the specifications. Full tower chassis. Material is 1.0 to 0.8 millimeter SCCC steel. Drive bays externals, there's 5 1/4. Includes a 3.5 inch cage by 1 inch. That's a 5 1/4, converts into a 3.5 for mounting a hard drive into the 5 1/4 bay. Got an internal 3.5 by 6 and a 2.5 by 1 for your SSD drives. Motherboard form factors: extended ATX, 12 inch by 13 inch ATX or micro ATX. Power supply is ATX 12 volt, PS2 size and EPS size. Expansion slots: PCI Express, PCI, AGP slots by 8. Top ports: USB 3.0, there's 2 of them. USB 2.0, there's 2 of them. eSATA, there's 2. There's a IEE 1394 FireWire connector and an HD AC97 audio connector. Okay, thermal solutions: 12 centimeter front fan, there's one of them. 22 centimeter LED side fan with LED switch, there's one of them. 12 centimeter LED side fan, 12 centimeter rear fan, and 12 centimeter top fan. Maximum supports 12 centimeter fan by 2 water cooling hole ready. That will be for the top of the case itself. And our overall dimensions are 556 millimeter or 21.9 inches by 239 millimeter or 9.4 inches by 578 millimeter or 22.8 inches. So that's about it for the information on the box itself. Let's pull this out of the box and have a closer look at the case. Okay, inside the box we got a nice assortment of accessories with it. InWin really goes all out when it comes to that with their cases, to make sure they include everything you need, including the user manual that explains to you how to configure different things in it. A very nice add-on is a couple of 8-pin extension cables. As you guys know, that buy full tower cases, a lot of times your cables are not long enough to reach to the motherboard, so sometimes you have to buy a separate 8-pin connector just to get to your motherboard itself. So it's very nice that they decided to include it in here. This is also a 4+4 type connector, so if your motherboard is using the older 4-pin style, you can simply separate 2 of them and use that to connect into your 4-pin connector. They include some zip strips for cable management, as well as a couple of different wire loops with some self-adhesive tape and also ones that'll push pin into the back of the motherboard tray itself. Another nice thing I thought that they included were a couple of these 3-pin connectors. They're basically a Molex to a 3-pin that could be used to control fans or anything else that you might have with a 3-pin connector. They give you a couple of additional rubber feet with some self-adhesive on them, as well as a large bag full of different assortments of screws, standoffs, everything you could need to mount your drives, mount your motherboard into the case itself. A very nice complete package, as well as your PC speaker for your motherboard, so you can tell if it's beeping, tell if it's booting. I know a lot of people don't use them. I like to use them because with overclocking, sometimes you don't know what it's doing, and sometimes the beeps can definitely help you to diagnose where your problem is. But let's set this stuff aside and look at the cases. Okay, as you see on the front of the case, we have ventilated 5.5-inch drive bays. It has a very armor-like look to it, like we've seen in the Dragon Slayer case. There are 5.25-inch bays on the top here. There's also an additional one down on the bottom here if you wanted to pull your hard drive cooling fan out and put an optical drive here or something, or you could put a fan controller, something like that in there. The traditional in-wind light, blue LED, on the front of the case itself. Okay, on the top is your control panel, your power button, your reset button, your microphone speaker jacks, your USB 3.0s, USB 2.0s, your eSATAs, and your FireWire connector. On the top itself, you see there's mounts for 2 120mm fans. They do include one in it already. A second one could be added, or a radiator could be mounted up here for water cooling. On the side of the case, we see that big inlet fan. That can be taken out and replaced with several 120mm fans if you choose. Here's your light switch that controls your on-off of the LEDs for this fan. Let's spin it around to the back. Okay, on the back of the case we have 4 pass-throughs that can be used for water cooling tubes or wires if you need to route your USB 3s back around to your motherboard itself. Here's where your I/O plate would be, your rear 120mm fan mounts. There are 8 slots here to add cards, as well as your mount for your power supply. Okay, on to the right side of the case. This is a very unique feature, how they bubbled this out and ventilated it for cooling your CPU cooler, your motherboard on the back side of the CPU cooler, I should say. This comes with an included 120mm fan, as well as there's a cutout there for installing your CPU cooler without having to remove the motherboard. Let's take the side panels out and get a look at the inside of this. Okay, on the side covers themselves, you can see on the inside panel, here's our large 22cm fan. They also put a acoustic material around the side cover to keep it quiet, keep the sound in. This is where your switch is for your LED for this fan. On the other side panel, you see the fan that cools the back of your CPU cooler, as well as the ventilation there. They use a flat black finish throughout on the inside of the case, as well as the side covers, which is very nice. You don't have any shiny silver or anything that kind of throws off that black theme that they're going for on this case. Let me set these side covers aside and we'll look at the inside of the case. Okay, I just also wanted to mention that to remove both side covers, there are 4 thumb screws that you take off to remove them, making it completely toolless to remove the side covers themselves. As with most of the case here, I think everything is pretty well toolless in this case. As you can see with the PCI slots, they use a lockdown that you can pull up, install a card into, and stick it into the slot, and then simply lock down the cards themselves. This is your ventilated power supply tray. As you can see, it has a removable fan grill here, or a dust grill I should say, that can be taken off and cleaned. Once again, that's completely toolless. Now onto our drive bays. There's mounts here for several hard drives. As you can see, the inlet fan here on the back side is going to pull cool air over your hard drives themselves. This is where our adapter drive would be up here. If you wanted to install an SSD drive, they give you a nice little mounting tray and stuff for it already that you can pop right in there. Onto our optical drives. We've got the 5 drive bays up here. They have the cutout here for a 3.5 inch on the top if a person wanted to install a 3.5 inch drive, or maybe you had a fan controller or something like that that you want to install in a 3.5 instead of a 5, but that is removable also. Let me unbundle these cables and get a little closer look at the cabling for it. Okay, with the front bezel removed, you can get a better look at the ventilation in the front bezel itself, as well as we can look at the dust filters that are included in it. As you can see, there's quite a bit of air ventilating through there. This is a toolless front cover. It simply pops off, and then if you want to remove any of your 5.5 inch bay covers, you simply squeeze the tabs together on both ends and pop the cover right out. Another innovation that I think is just wonderful on these InWin cases is they include this accessory tray to keep track of all of your hard drive rails. Pop that out of there. As you can see, they're just a spring-loaded rail. And I know on other cases I've had, you know, after a while you kind of lose track of where all the various parts is for the case. You have everything together when you build it, and then you set stuff aside. A few weeks later, month later, year later, whatever, you'll go to change your configuration in your computer. You don't know where your hard drive rails got off to, what bag or box you put them into. So I think this is a really neat idea to store them right inside the computer itself. Because it is a full-size case and has plenty of room, most people won't need this additional 5.25 inch bay, because you still have 4 other ones, well technically 5, including the bottom one if you choose to use it. So not that many people are going to run that many optical drives that you would need to use this tray, so that you can keep this for your rails itself, keep them organized, always know where they're at. As you change configurations in the computer, you have easy access to them. Okay, on the front of the case itself, we can see that 120 millimeter intake fan that's going to cool our hard drives. This big blue area here is where your blue LED is to light up your InWin insignia. There's also a spot here for what appears to be a 3.5 inch bay, but I think actually that's the back side of your SSD drive. I think that you could probably pop that out and run a 3.5 inch in there also, but on the back side we do have the 2.5 inch mounting tray for SSD drive if you chose to. Okay, let me move this stuff aside and we'll have a closer look at. Okay, onto the cables on the inside. This is where all your front connector cables are, your SATAs, your power reset audio cables. One thing that I really like about this case is they didn't go cheap and give you short cables. I don't know why some of these full-size cases do that. They sell you a big case and then they don't give you enough wire to reach anything. As you can see, I can take all of the wires easily right out the back of the power supply hole. That's including everything: motherboard connectors, eSATAs, audio. Everything will be long enough to reach right outside the back of the case itself, so they give you plenty of cable to attach to whatever accessories you need to, or wherever your mounts are on your motherboard. I think that's awesome that you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of extensions and stuff for this case. That could save you a bundle in the long run, because as you know, a lot of times them little accessories like them extension cables can add up in cost. Okay, and now on the back of the motherboard tray we see the cutout here for your CPU cooler, which is awfully nice, that you can remove your cooler without having to pull the motherboard tray. That's an awesome detail. A little closer look at the top fan and the fan grill, as well as where your second one would mount here, or if you did want to put a radiator here. Nice thing about it is you can see the coolant holes are right below where these top fans would mount. So if you are going to put a radiator in here, maybe run some kind of a loop deal, or maybe run some kind of external radiator, the holes are right up on the top there instead of down here on the side where, you know, you'll see them in some cases where you have to drag your hoses over front of the motherboard. But all in all, it's a very solid case. The shipping weight on the case was 32 pounds, and I imagine with the box and styrofoam and packing materials, that sort of thing added to it, that might have added a couple pounds to it. But all in all, I'd say the case is probably about 30 pounds with nothing in it, just the bare case. Okay, on the back side here, as well as that cutout for your CPU cooler, you see there's also additional spots here for cable management holes, as well as it's completely open on the top here and also on the bottom, which will make routing your cables a ton easier. There's so much space here that you could use, especially with a rear mounted or bottom mounted power supply. You don't have to worry about trying to bring your main 24 pin and everything up above the back panel. Everything can be run around the side or right up through the cable management holes. There's also some smaller holes up in the side here that could be used for running your wires to your optical drives. But very nice for cable management, plenty of room to work with. Let's flip it over and have a look at the bottom. Okay, on the bottom of the case itself, we can see the ventilation on the bottom for your power supply. This does have extendable feet on it that you can set out to stabilize the computer if you're worried about it tipping over, or maybe it's an environment where there's a lot of traffic where you want to make sure it don't get bumped and tip over. You can rotate these feet out and lock them out to give you some more stability. The nice thing is that they don't just slide like some of them do. They do actually lock. I'll be quiet here, you can maybe hear it. So you can tell when it's locked into position, which makes it a lot easier to keep it where it's supposed to be, and it can't accidentally be bumped and turned in on you when you don't want it to. They will actually stay in position. So that's going to do it for this product showcase. We want to thank InWind for providing us with such a wonderful product to look at, and I want to thank you for watching.